Wall Street surges on Friday, boosted by a much stronger than expected jobs report for May. Payrolls rise by nearly 340,000 versus estimates of 190,000 jobs, easing concerns of an impending recession. The Dow Jones rallies over 2%, marking its best day since January, while the Nasdaq has now gained for the sixth straight week. Stocks in the Asia-Pacific trade largely higher following a strong Wall Street rally on Friday. The SGX Nifty also indicates a higher start for the Indian market. And oil surges as Saudi Arabia announces production cuts to the tune of 1 million barrels a day for July, taking its daily output down to 9 million barrels. Brent jumps above $78 a barrel. The OPEC, however, leaves its production targets for the rest of the year unchanged. And the Tata Group will set up India's first lithium-ion cell manufacturing gigafactory in Gujarat at an initial cost of over 13,000 crore rupees. Meanwhile, the insurance regulator identifies SBI Life to acquire Sahara India Life Insurance policies in a bid to protect interests of policyholders. And the Railway Board recommends a CBI investigation into the tragic Coromandel Express train crash that has till now claimed nearly 300 lives and left over 1,000 injured. The Railway Minister also indicates that the root cause of the accident has been identified and will be released in a report soon. Hi guys, good morning and welcome to Power Breakfast. I'm Pavitra Parekh. Truly heartbreaking to see visuals of the train crash really dominating news flow over the weekend as well. And like we pointed out, 300 people identified as dead so far. Unbearable to watch visuals, but we will keep bringing you updates on that story as well. We have more planned on the show as well, so stay tuned for coverage on that. But as always, let's kickstart the show by looking at what's going on across global markets. Like I was pointing out, the handover from Wall Street was extremely solid. So Asia on the back of that is doing very well. What's clearly leading the gains this morning is the Japanese market. So the Nikkei market is up 1.7%, so looking very solid there. The Straits is the other one, so it's up 1.6% over there. And for the rest of the Asian markets, also you're seeing a very strong rally. So the Hang Seng markets, 120 points in the green, 0.6% higher there. The Taiwanese index up around 50 points. And whichever Asian market you look at, actually all of them are doing well, barring perhaps the Chinese one, which is absolutely flat right now. But like I was pointing out, gains truly led by Japan this morning, which is up 525 points. That's what's happening in Asia. But let's also talk about the US market. Wall Street rallied on Friday on the back of a strong jobs report, as well as optimism over the debt ceiling deal. So the Dow surged 700 points. We had the S&P 500, which climbed 1.5%. And meanwhile, the tech-heavy Nasdaq really continued its rally and ended 140 points higher. In fact, with Friday's rally, the S&P 500 posted its best week that we've seen since March, and the Nasdaq has managed to notch its sixth straight weekly gain. What's also important to track from the US now is the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference, which kicks off at the company's headquarters in Cupertino, California later today. The iPhone maker is expected to unveil the iOS 17, watchOS 10, iPadOS 17, among a lot of other major products. So, of course, stay tuned for coverage on that as well. But staying with the big cue from the U.S., public and private sector payrolls for the month of May surged more than expected. This even as the unemployment rate rose to a 7-month high. We have CNBC's Rick Santelius here to really break down all of the numbers and take us through them. All right, that is some opinion on the jobs report, but let's also get you the final wrap on our global market cues this morning. That is, the European market saw their best day in 2 months on Friday, with the French CAC index and the British FTSE closing over 1.5% in the green. You also had the DAX, which closed with an over 1% kind of gain, so good rally across the European markets as well. The Pan-European Stock 600 closed 1.5% higher, and this after hitting a 2-month low on Wednesday, with mining and auto stocks leading the gain. So Europe definitely not sitting out of this global market rally that we are seeing, and that is all of the action that we're tracking as far as the global markets go. But with that, we are going to get into a short break. When we come back, we're going to tell you how all of these global cues really affect our own markets and all of the domestic cues that you should track as well. Stay tuned for the trade setup in just a bit. Hey guys, welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast here on CNBC-TV18, and we have our team joining in to take us through the trade setup today and all of the domestic as well as global cues that you should track. Mangalam, Rima and Surbi are all here with me now. Guys, a very good morning to all of you. Rima, let me come to you first. We were just going through the global cues, which look extremely solid, so the start should be in the green, but take us through everything we should track.
Indeed. So the top down is looking very strong. The macros, the global picture, U.S. markets closed with gains of 1 to 2%. You spoke about the May non-farm payrolls data, much stronger than what the street was anticipating. Yet, the street still anticipates the possibility of the Fed pausing in its 13th to 14th of June. So either way, it could be a Goldilocks scenario for the U.S. markets, where the economy continues to be robust, the labor data continues to be strong, but the Fed will pause in the next meeting. For our own markets, last week we saw major outperformance by the broader markets. So the mid-cap index saw a gain of more than 1.5%. The small-cap index rallied, and now you would want to see that push coming through in the frontline index in the Nifty and the sensex. The SGX Nifty is suggesting a stronger start. One key resistance to watch in the Nifty will be last week. The Nifty went to hit a high of 18,662. After that, it turned out to be a very volatile session. By the close of the week, the Nifty held 18,500, but the immediate level to cross could be last week's intraday high of 18,662. In terms of flows, fairly neutral. So the DIIs bought 581 crore while the FIs sold 650 crore. The FIs have sold in the cash market now for the second consecutive day. That's on Thursday and on Friday. They were both sellers. The big cue to track will be the RBI monetary policy. It's a 3-day policy. It begins on Tuesday, but the conclusion will be known only on Thursday. And market participants are anticipating a pause in by the RBI in terms of rate hikes, because the latest inflation print at 4.7% was very comfortable and well within the RBI's guided band. So the inflation print in India has turned soft. So the commentary on the future trajectory from RBI is going to be tracked very closely. But for the day, expect a very strong start. Let's see whether the Nifty can push to higher levels. Back to you.
All right, Reema, thanks a lot for laying out all of those cues for us. Let's also talk about the individual stocks that we should track in today's trading session. Surbi is here with that list. Surbi, the earnings season is up, but a lot of action to catch us up on.
Yeah, there are a few stocks on my radar. Let's start with Hero Motor. The company launches a new 100cc motorcycle. Next is SBI Life. The company has been identified by the IRDAI to acquire the life insurance business of Sahara India Life Insurance. Zydus Life, the US FDA issues 0 observations to the company's animal health drug manufacturing facility at Ahmedabad. Ipca Labs, the income tax department carried out surveys at company's offices in Mumbai and the manufacturing plant in Sikkim. And lastly, Minda Corp, where the board approves a fundraise to the tune of 600 crores.
Right, Surbi, thanks a lot for taking us through that entire set of stocks. We are going to watch for these in today's trading session. Finally, let me bring Mangalam in to take us through all of the cues from the futures and options space. Mangalam, what are you looking at this morning?
Well, before we look at the futures and options space, Reema did speak about the strength that came in the global markets. What really stood out for me was the Russell 2000 moving about 3.5% and crossing the 200-day moving average, telling you that the breadth of the US market is expanding as well. Up until now, it was only a few stocks that were taking the US indices higher. And apart from that, Brent is, higher. It spiked around $77 per barrel. So that's something we'll have to watch out for. And in line with it, the FIIs have sold for the second consecutive session. So 659 crores is what they sold on Friday. The Nifty has been moving in this 18,400 to 18,700 sort of range. So important to track the SGX Nifty is gap up and not to chase that, because the gap up indicates that the start would be at the higher end of the range itself. And in light of that, the FIs bought around 476 crores in index futures. The longs have now inched mildly higher from 46% to around 48 odd percent. But in index options, they want to play it via calls as against index futures, because at higher levels, it gets a little risky to buy futures. So they bought nearly 3 lakh calls for about 2 lakh puts that they bought. And the call that they bought is 18,800 for 12 rupees a pop. But interestingly, they've also written the same number of calls and puts, telling you that the market's range will continue, especially until the RBI policy meet. Why do I say that? Because the 18,600 call has a premium of close to around 70 odd rupees, telling you that levels closer to 18,700, 18,670 to 18,700 will face some resistance, whereas the 18,500 put has around 47 lakh shares added in open interest for a premium of 50 rupees, telling you 18,400 to 18,450 will be an important support. Were we to break this range on the way up, we'll obviously look at all-time highs, but on the way down, the 20-day moving average, key to watch for the Nifty as well as the Nifty Bank. For the Nifty, it's 18,360. For the Nifty Bank, 43,815. So those are a bunch of levels that we'll be watching out for.
All right, Mangalam, thanks a lot for taking us through all of those cues from the futures and options space as well. But with that, it is time for another break on the show. When we come back, we're going to track all of the cues from the commodity markets, the rally in crude prices, so stay tuned for that. Welcome back. You're still tuning into Power Breakfast, and let's talk about the commodity space now. Manisha joins us. Manisha, a lot of action in the crude markets over the weekend.
Oh, well, absolutely. And as a knee-jerk reaction, we even saw the prices rush up to $79 a barrel. And this is after Saudi Arabia pledged additional cuts. Saudi Arabia has extended its 500,000 barrels per day of voluntary cuts now to the end of 2024. They also are talking about a total production cut of 1 million barrels per day in the month of July itself. Now, that would really create a deficit in the month of July. There also is a Ristad Energy report suggesting that you could be looking at a global 3 million barrels per day of a deficit in the month of July. So the prices from here are expected to rise. Markets are anticipating $78 to $80 a barrel to be touched in this week itself. It is about the strong U.S. non-farm payroll data as well that we saw coming in. So that tells you that the demand perhaps is going to be supportive. The only thing that's weighing onto the markets is the strength in the U.S. dollar index as well. That is back above 104, and that seems to be weighing onto the market. The other thing really is about the overall output cuts as well. So while for the year 2023, OPEC and allies have stayed pat, but for 2024, there is going to be an additional 1.4 million barrels per day of a cut. So with the OPEC and allies talking so many cuts going forward for this year and the next as well, the crude oil prices definitely look supported.
Okay, Manisha, thanks a lot for taking us through all of that action. In fact, the OPEC Plus meetings that took place over the weekend have concluded with a fairly opaque picture of what the plans are for oil production this year, like Manisha was pointing out. The biggest producer, Saudi Arabia, has said that it is implementing a voluntary cut on its own starting next month, taking 1 million barrels per day off the market. Saudi Arabia's energy minister has described the reduction as what he called a Saudi lollipop. Let's listen in to what he had to tell us earlier in the day. Okay, that's what we're looking at from the commodity markets. But moving on, extremely tragic news that we have been reporting over the weekend as well. At least 275 people have lost their lives and over 1,000 have been left injured in the 3-train crash in Odisha's Balasore district on Friday. This is India's worst train tragedy that we've seen in 2 decades. The Railway Board has now recommended handing over the probe of the incident to the CBI, even as the opposition has called for Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav's resignation. The board has said that signalling interference has been identified as the main cause of the accident. Let's listen in to what Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav had to say on the decision to seek a CBI probe.
जो कुछ अब तक का एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव इंफॉर्मेशन मिली है उस सबको ध्यान में रखते हुए आगे की इंक्वायरी के लिए आगे के इन्वेस्टिगेशन के लिए इस केस को इस पूरे मामले को सीबीआई के पास देने का रेलवे बोर्ड की तरफ से रिकमेंडेशन किया जा रहा है.
Okay, so this will now move to the CBI, even as the initial source has been, for now, identified as signalling interference. Meanwhile, trial runs have also been completed late Sunday night on the down line between Chennai and Howrah of the affected stretch. The UP line has also been restored earlier in the day, and most trains are set to resume on the line today. So let's listen in to what Railway Minister had to say on this development as well.
पूरी टीम ने उसी तत्परता के साथ काम करके एक प्रॉपर सिस्टम से दोनों की दोनों पटरियों को रिस्टोर कर दिया है और दुर्घटना के इस भयानक दुर्घटना के 51 घंटे के अंदर अंदर वापस ट्रेन का मूवमेंट नॉर्मलाइज हो गया है. अभी पहली गाड़ी अभी आने वाली है.
Okay, we can only hope that everyone that's injured right now does recover in time, and our heart really goes out to everyone that has suffered at this because of this accident. But with that, we're going to wind down in this edition of Power Breakfast. Thank you very much for tuning in. Bazaar is up in 2.